What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you've already subscribed and supported. This is the first installment of my Level Up series, leveling up with multifamily real estate investments. How I got my first two properties in under 2 years and how you can do the same. Now, in regards to real estate as a whole, I think most people have a level of confusion, doubt, fear, you name it, when it comes to the process of real estate. And to an extent, I get it, because I was there 2.5 years ago, or however long ago it was, in which there was nobody around me that had ever invested in real estate and done these things that I've done. But one thing I want to make sure that is clear is that we have to make sure that we have an open mind. We understand that there's more out there than what we've seen other people around us do. And hopefully through this Level Up series and through this channel in general, the process doesn't seem as daunting or as scary as it once did. So first of all, just diving right into it, why do I think multifamily investing is more advantageous than single family investing? And the mindset I like to keep is, imagine you're going to the store and you need paper towels. Is it more efficient to buy one paper towel or a pack of paper towels? Right? It's actually more efficient. It's more cost efficient to buy a pack of paper towels, though it's going to cost more up front. You get more value per unit. And this concept is what you call economies of scale. So through that concept, in regards to real estate, multifamily versus single family properties, is this: you can have 3 separate single family properties, or you can have one multifamily property with 3 units. With one multifamily property and 3 units, you have the ability, or really you have practically 3 streams of income under one roof, rather than having 3 loans, 3 lawns, 3 houses. It becomes a little more difficult, though you have the same amount of doors, right? So with multifamily properties, you have the ability to have the same amount of doors as if you were to buy multiple single families, but it's only one loan. So the cash flow potential is higher, right? The cash flow potential is higher. For example, if you have a $2,000 mortgage on this triplex, just to keep it simple, and say you're charging $900 a month per unit, you're cash flowing around $700 a month off of these 3 units under one roof. As opposed to if you have 3 single family properties, you might have 3 separate $2,000 loans on these houses. And see, with that even makes maintenance a little more difficult. Because if I want, let's say I want my grass cut at my property, there's 3 units, only one grass to cut, right? Because it's only one building that you have to worry about, as opposed to 3 separate houses. You have to go to 3 separate lines. That's 3 separate bills. It becomes more, and that's the word, it becomes more efficient just buying the 3 units or 4 units or 2 units if you buy a duplex under one roof than otherwise. And like I said, just to reiterate, this is not to say single family is something that you shouldn't consider, because it's all dependent on your situation. But another thing that puts the multifamily property over the single family is this: with multifamily properties, because they're harder to find and they're also less desirable for the average person, there's less competition when it's time to negotiate, when it's time to put your bid in, when you're offering a price point. You won't have to deal with as much competition as you would with a single family. Because with most of our families, as you know, if you've ever been around somebody or been in the house of somebody who owns an apartment or rents an apartment, or you've rented an apartment yourself, you have to worry about the people above you, the people on the side of you, and it becomes too much. Most of the time, people want their own space, their own place, so that they have their own sense of peace. It doesn't come at the expense of loud kids at a certain period of time or whatever other variables may come about within a multifamily building. So with that being said, it offers you that peace of mind going into negotiations, knowing that there's really nobody else that's going to be there to bid against you for the most part, at least from my experience. So there's that. Now, because I assume that a lot of people here will be new investors, potential investors looking to be future investors, we have to make sure we keep the right mind, right? So let's call this our multifamily money mindset. 3 words I have for this mindset that I speak of, right? Focus, preparation, and your research, right? When it comes to your focus, this is establishing what you're about to, establishing first, but also understanding what you're about to get into. Like, when it comes to the money that's going to be involved, there shouldn't be any half-stepping or anything that you're unclear about. Let's try to get clear. Let's try to dial in on what exactly we're about to do. And this is where your confidence is going to come from, because you're going to be so dialed in, so locked in on understanding this process, understanding the terminology. There's nothing for you to be afraid of, theoretically, right? Because it's not until you complete the process completely that you'll be fully confident. So we'll take it slow, one step at a time. Now, after your focus, this is how you prepare. This leads into the preparation part. Because you're focused, because you're locked in, because you understand what you're about to get into, now you can kind of prepare what needs to be in line to make this process smooth, right? We're going to speak on your income and your expenses, your DTI whenever the lenders get into it. And this is how, before you even get deep into talking to a lender and talking to these mortgage companies, you already understand, okay, this is what they're going to look for. I'm already going to be here. I should be good, right? So that's the preparation piece. And then we want to get into our researching the terminology, researching different zip codes, different areas. What exactly do we want out of this process, right? What are we looking for? What type of house? What are we looking to spend? Different terms that we have to get acquainted with, get accustomed to hearing from our agents, from our lenders, from everybody that may be involved with us in this process. So those are the 3 things I have to make sure, I have to emphasize that I have to remember our focus, our preparation. We can't lose focus. We can't fail to prepare. And our research, right? So let's remember all those things. Now, another thing that's crucial to understand is understanding our own financial situation. Understanding our own financial situation, and therefore establishing a great financial foundation. So, first of all, when it comes to our financial situation, how much are we making? First of all, how much do we have? How much do we have in all? Do we know that? How much are we making monthly? How much is leaving our accounts monthly? The reason you have to understand this is first of all, you should be aware of this anyway. That's critical for daily life. But in regards to investing, you should be familiar with these things, because when you begin to talk to a lender, they're going to begin looking at your DTI, your debt to income ratio. Your debt to income is your debt. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's the ratio of how much money is leaving your house, your account, not your house, but your account monthly due to debts you have to pay off, as opposed to your income through your job or whatever side hustle you have, whatever the case may be. Now, your debt to income ratio, usually lenders are looking for anything under 43%, right? So let's say, for example, you bring in $6,000 a month. You, due to expenses and debt, pay $2,000 a month. That's what leaves your account. It's $2,000 a month. Your debt to income ratios are 33%, which means what? You have enough room to take on another type of debt, that being a mortgage. And they have to know, do you have enough room to, deal with all this debt that's going to be coming your way, the previous debt you have and the future debt you'll potentially have once you approve for the loan. So let's get familiar with that. Like I said, most lenders are looking for anything under 43%, and 43% is the max. There is no leeway after 43% most of the time, unless we're talking about FHA loans, which we'll get to a little later. But you really want your DTI around 33, between 30 and 36%. That puts you in a safe place for most lenders to approve you for a huge loan that would be a mortgage. So yes, understanding your financial situation starts with understanding the amount of money you already have in all, your income and your expenses, right? So moving on to the next part of your financial situation is this. We all know about credit, right? We all know about credit. Sometimes people think of credit as a crutch, right? It's something to fall back on when they don't have enough money. That's an awful way to look at credit. We have to look at credit, instead of looking at it as a crutch, let's look at it as a construction tool. So when you think about your credit, don't just think about a number. Think about, this is your credibility. This is how people look to see, with the aforementioned debt that you already have, how reliable are you to pay it off. Now, we already basically understand the importance of credit through just living life, being grown people. But we have to understand how we can use credit to leverage our spending power, but also build wealth. Now, when I use the word leverage, what I'm referring to is this. This is the idea that you use borrowed resources to control bigger assets better than you could with your own money. So say, for example, I have $20,000 on hand. I can't buy a house with $20,000. But what I can do is, with good credit history and at $20,000 as well, I can now buy a $400,000 multifamily property. And this is what we want, right? So we're not looking at credit as a way to rely on something in which we don't have. And we're also not looking at credit as just a means in which we can earn a score and qualify for a loan. So we're not looking at credit to rely or to qualify, but to multiply. And we're trying to multiply our properties, our portfolio, our everything, in order to achieve the end goal as fast as possible. That's the point. So now, when it comes to the different types of loans that you can apply for. If you would like to house hack, if house hacking is your first step into real estate investing, which it was for me personally, which is just for the people who are unfamiliar, house hacking is whenever you buy a multifamily property, you live in one unit, rent out the others for cash flow, or to at the very least, lessen the expenses. If your plan is to house hack, what you can do to get into the house, you have the FHA loan, in which you can get into a house after putting down only 3.5% of the purchase price. So just to make it simple, let's say we buy a house for $100,000. 3.5% of that would be $3,500, right? That's all you have to put down if you're looking at house hack. That's an owner-occupied loan when it comes to house hacking. If you're not looking to stay in the property, now you're looking at a conventional loan for your investment property. Now, for your investment property, you're probably looking at 20% down payment. So that's going to be the next section of understanding our financial situation, is our savings, our cash reserves. But staying on the credit part, your credit for each, for the FHA and the conventional, two different credit scores that they'll allow minimum. So the minimum credit score for FHA loan is going to be, from what I've seen, a 580. Something as low as a 580 can get you into your first investment property if you live in it, right? FHA loan, FHA program, they allow 580 minimum. Now, conventional on a primary will be 5%. So you have the FHA program, which is 3.5%, the lowest you can go. You have conventional on a primary, which is 5%. Now, for your investment property, 20% down payment, credit score 620 minimum. So these are generally pretty low scores. 620 is not bad, but it's not really good either. You're not really reliable per se with the 620, but it can get you. All you have to do, the point of it is to get into it, get into your first property, get the process started. Now you completed the process, you went through the funding, you went through everything, you moved in. Now you have the full level of confidence that you need to, what did I just say, multiply. So remember that for our financial situation so far, we've understood our income, our overall account, just how much we have in our account, also our expenses. And that leads into our DTI, which the lender will absolutely look at. So we'll be familiar with that. Then with your DTI, it goes into your credit. So because you have the debt, how reliable are you to pay it off? All right, so that's just a rundown of what we went through so far. Now, after that section, let's get into cash liquidity, meaning accessible cash. What cash do you have to move around? You know, your cash almost has to have working legs. It has to be able to move around when it's necessary. It shouldn't be locked up in stocks or a 401k or any of these other accounts in which you cannot quickly access your money, because in the event in which something goes wrong, say you already have your property, say you already went through the process. In the event in which something goes wrong, repairs, a tenant, an eviction, whatever the case, you have to be able to have this money on hand that you can just throw at the problem and let it be what it's going to be. Let the process, work out itself. Now, within the process, you want to have cash liquidity because these make your decisions quicker, faster. You're more decisive. So this happens. Anything can happen in the buying process. So you have to be able to have that money saved up, and whatever happens, have it ready to go. Because even with getting the inspection and getting the appraisal, like all of that costs money, let alone what I just mentioned, repairs and things of that nature. And also the down payment, and like your money has to be able to move at any given moment. So if it is sitting in some type of account in which you don't have access to it right now, get ready to put it into an account or do it right now so that you can have that money on hand to throw at whatever problem presents itself. So let's understand that the cash liquidity, and just this is what prepares you to be a ready investor instead of a reactive investor. But guess what? Even if you are a reactive investor, you have the money to throw at any situation. So in all, through everything we have just discussed, we have went through the mindset you have to have, the focus, the preparation, the research you have to do, the financial situation you have to be in order to feel comfortable enough to dive deep into this process. Through it all, I guess the question to be asked would be, well, how can I get started now? And what I would advise is, there's a couple channels, but one channel specifically that helped me out a lot is BiggerPockets. BiggerPockets on YouTube, and they have a real estate rookie podcast as well. Through other people's stories, you become familiar with what other people have went through, the mistakes, the good things, the ways in which you can kind of formulate your own path. So what I would say is, completely embrace this journey. Look at those other resources as to how you can become better, become more familiar with everything having to do with this process. And through that, as we go through each step in this process, we become more comfortable, we become more confident. So far, I hope that was informative enough to start out. My next installment, I guess you can call it, will be about finding the right agent, understanding the market, understanding what area presents the best money opportunities, cash flow opportunities, and we'll just go from there. So stay tuned for that. That's the end of this video. I hope it wasn't too lengthy of a video, but either way, I hope that the information was good enough, and I hope you have what you need in order to take action right now. Right? We can focus at any time, so let's just focus and understand what we're trying to get ourselves into, the path we're about to take, and let's start from there. Focus. Let's map out what exactly we want from this process. So let's do it. Let's continue to strive for greater things, continue to invest in ourselves, most importantly, before we even decide to invest in any other asset. Let's invest in the most important asset that we have, which is ourselves, our mind. So until next time, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment, critique. Man, share the video on every platform account you have. But until next time, I'm out. Thanks for watching.